first time I remember doing like a concert review with a guest. It's always just me talking to the camera. So this is cool. Interesting. What's up, everyone? Mike here from The Art of Guitar, here with a special guest, Dylan. Do you want me to say your last name or not?
Sure, McLean.
I always call you McLean. I'm sorry. So out of nowhere, you were like, hey, do you want to go see 311? Mm-hmm. And I kind of hesitated a little bit. Do you know why?
No.
Okay, because the day before the show, my friend was actually doing an MMA fight at Mystic Lake Casino.
Oh, really?
And then a week later, I was going to see Megadeth.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's too much Mystic Lake Casino in 1 week or whatever. It's just not good, especially because, in my family, we love to gamble. And I'm like, if I go there too many times, I'm going to be broke. It was kind of funny because they had the 2 merch tables, and I thought this was hilarious because 311 had all these shirts and hats and all this stuff. And then to the left of it was this poor little like single table with one guy sitting there, and behind him there's like a T-shirt and I think a trucker's cap.
Yeah.
For the opening band, which was called Blame My Youth, and I had never heard of them before.
Yeah, me either.
So it's funny that they play such a big part later in this whole night, but it was like, who are these guys? I have no idea, but they had already started playing. But then we walk in and get our seats, and do you agree with me that almost anywhere you sit in that amphitheater, since it's like 2,000 seater, it's not bad seats?
Oh yeah, and I saw a little bit of your Megadeth. You guys were a little closer.
Yeah.
And like we were sitting, not on the main floor, but like 15 rows up or something. Mm-hmm. But I said to you when we first got in there, I'm like, oh, this is weird because I'm so used to general admission. Used to being on the floor,
especially for a band like 311,
right? Because shows I've been in the past, they're wild and but so it's kind of weird to sit there and
I know,
and then like standing up is almost like, am I okay to
That's why it was funny how when the people did stand up, like not during the first band, but when 311 came out, our side was sitting all down, which is kind of nice because I wanted to see the stage and not have to stand up the whole time. But just to my right, the one guy stands up, and he was up the entire show.
Yeah,
always
that's
that
right.
one guy.
I remember that.
Yeah, so Blame My Youth was playing when we walked in, and then what were you going to say about him?
I just thought I didn't know what to expect. They were kind of weird when you first see them because they're like, trucker hats, like a cutoff flannel or whatever, like the lead singer, and the one guitarist was kind of dressed like that. The bassist looked a little more normal, but I don't know. So they had this interesting look, and like right away, I'm like, who are these guys? So I like looked them up on my phone real quick, and it like says they're from L.A.
Yeah, that was.
And
weird.
I remember I mentioned that, and you're like, are you sure L.A.?
They look like they're from down south or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
As they were playing, I started to dig them. I mean, they definitely have their own kind of interesting style. The lead singer can wail. I mean, his voice. I remember you telling me, like, man, I don't know how that guy's going to be able to keep that up for years.
Yeah, he's got like a screamy sing.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like doing the quiet version either. It sounded like he was just all out. Mm-hmm. But he kept it like the whole time very strong. His voice didn't really crack or anything like that. But yeah, they all look tough to me. Like I thought, don't mess with these guys, but they look to me like truckers, but from the WWE, I think is what I said. The singer, for some reason, reminded me of Seabass from Dumb and Dumber. Remember the guy who stands up and he had the trucker hat and all that stuff? But the bass player, you're right. To me, he looked like I thought he looked like Tom Morello for some reason.
Kinda,
just the way he was dressed. And I'm like, that'd be Tom Morello if he played bass.
Right. Well, and they rocked. I mean, there were some times where they were pretty heavy. I mean, heavy guitar, and their songs kind of seemed like, I don't know what the word is for it, like, but kind of
anthematic, like where you can sing along right away to
it. Like it's like where you're speaking directly to somebody in a song like I Hate Everything About You. That's not one of their songs, but like that, like it's those types of songs.
Very direct, and it sticks in your head right away.
Right,
and it's something that you remember, and then you hear it once, and I swear I was singing it after the show.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's a catchy tune. I don't know. They felt like a seasoned band, but still new at the same time. But I don't know. It made me want to go home and actually look them up on YouTube. I started watching some of their videos, and I'm like, some of these have a lot of views, but I feel like they should be a lot more popular. Maybe they're on their way up now or something. But
well, and we'll have more on them later.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's kind of weird in like an amphitheater setting. I don't even call it would it be an amphitheater? Like a theater setting of some kind?
Theater,
to see a band hard rock like that play, because you feel like you said, you should be standing next to people, feeling bodies, but you're just sitting there on a chair. And then at the end, I feel like the singer did a good job breaking the fourth wall. He like jumped off the stage and he like high-fived everybody in the front row.
Yeah, he went all the way down the front row. And then he had asked somebody earlier who's like, is it anybody's birthday? And it was
Yeah.
some dude like in the fourth row, and he's like, yeah, wasn't their cameraman or something?
Yeah, also his birthday. But remember when he was high-fiving everybody and also one guy just came up and gave him a huge hug?
Yeah, yeah.
And I got a little tense. I'm like, he's either going to hug him back or deck the guy, you know, because he's so tough looking. But,
Yeah.
oh, and then what was kind of weird about the end of that is he was still down high-fiving people. Then the song ends, and the light guy turns on the house lights while the singer's still out
Yeah.
off the stage. I'm like, dude, they left that guy hanging. So he just kind of ran up and went behind stage. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird, but it's one of those things where I don't see bands that often in that situation jump out into the crowd like
Right.
that. So, you know, that was pretty cool to see.
But it's a, memory maker. All those people are probably pretty, solid fans now.
Yeah, I think they made a lot of fans. I mean, including me. It's like having a song of theirs stuck in my head for 3 days
Yeah.
is probably a good sign. You know?
Yeah.
Not always, but usually. Yeah, I went out, got a drink, it was kind of cool. I was getting excited about 311. And then I think you were just hanging out the whole time in your seat, right? Like,
Yeah, or I went out to have a cigarette or something.
oh, that's all right. So we get back to our seats, and then 311, I guess, is about to come out, and all the screens were up, ready
Yeah.
to go. And the opening song, I feel bad, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
What was it?
Well, and I don't know, I'm sure it is for you too, but I love, the moment the lights go down and the band starts to come out, if they could bottle that. I mean, that's like, for music junkies like us, that's just the coolest time ever. And 311 is a band that has done that better than anybody in the past. And so it's always a little disappointing now because they had perfected it, in my opinion. In the mid 90s, they would start their shows with the lights off, and they do this intro. It's actually on the Transistor album, but it's just this instrumental. It's just da-na-na, da-na-na, and they go through. It's like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then as that ends, the lights drop again, and then as Tim the guitarist is holding the last note of his solo, it just, he slides down the neck and kicks into Homebrew.
Oh, nice. I love that riff.
And, and then like right when the drums kick in, the lights come on, and Essay is with the tambourine and and it's just like the coolest intro. When I saw them at First Avenue, I've never seen a crowd bouncing like I saw that. So I always expect that, but they opened with Do You Right, which is one of their original songs off their music album, the first album. It was an interesting opener for old school fans like me. It's a song I love, but I don't know if I've ever seen them open with that.
It's funny that I found out that their guitar player's name is Tim Mahoney, which we have our own Tim Mahoney in Minnesota.
Apparently, if your name is Tim, there's like a 30% chance your last name's Mahoney, because there are like a bunch of them.
And you're going to be a musician, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing about Do You Right, you have to check out the music video for it. It's such a snapshot in time. It's so funny. The video, if you watch it, it is so like 1993.
Baggy pants and stuff.
Right, and like they look. We'll watch it later.
Okay.
And you're gonna crack up.
I'll put a clip of it on the video.
Yeah, because it looks nothing like they ended up looking like, but it's so of the time.
I know I joked this to you, but when Essay was like starting to really get into it, he was wearing like a dress shirt. And he was completely bald, like shaved his head.
Yeah.
So I wasn't used to that because I was used to those
it
old
looks different
videos.
now.
But wearing that dress shirt, he wore a gray one.
Yeah.
And I learned long ago that you never wear gray on stage.
Yeah.
Because did you notice the
was
sweat?
drenched in
the
sweat,
sweat
yeah.
started like up here, slowly came down. It was funny. By the end of the show, it was completely dark.
Yeah.
It's just like you could tell how far into the show we were by where the
Right.
line was,
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't change it or something.
Yeah, he was working so hard though. I love that he hasn't slowed down, at least from what I can tell.
Well, in the past, they used to just take their shirts off.
Exactly,
most of the
yep.
time. So.
And then he actually implemented a move where he like wiped sweat off of his forehead. Did he used to do that too?
I think that's newer. I don't remember him doing it way back when. But.
Yeah, I wonder if after he shaved his head, he's like, "There's nothing to catch the sweat. I just have to create a move for that." or
Right,
whatever."
yeah.
So he was working. I love seeing
And
him.
he's a guy that like right away. I mean, when I first saw them, it was just like, whoa, who's this dude, man?
Yeah.
His dance moves. He's just like so into the groove. You can just like the best dancers are people that when you watch them dance, they're doing what you feel like.
Right.
You know, and he's kind of like that to me. You know, like whenever I see him, I'm like, oh, if I could dance, that's exactly what I'd be doing, what he's doing right now.
Yep. He's basically translating the feel of the music with his body, which is
Yeah.
what I guess dancing is. But he does it in a way that's not self-conscious. Like some dancers look like they're worried about how they look. He just goes for
Yeah,
it.
he just, yeah.
That's my problem is that whenever I'm on the dance floor, I just feel the eyes on me and I just start doing the robot.
That's where the alcohol needs to come in, because then you don't care.
Yes, thank you, Jack Daniels. A couple things I was going to say is when Nick first showed up on stage and they showed him on the screen, I'm like, when did he become like Chris Pine, you know, like a Marvel character? Has he looked like that for a while? Because the video you just showed me is what I remember him looking like.
Yeah, and then he had really long hair when he was younger, but then he like kind of had short hair, and then he shaved it after their RV
I remember
exploded
that.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was like around the time I saw them in '94. That's why he looked so young to me, just like the shaved head kind of punk. But no, he, you know, I think it was maybe in the last, I can't believe how many years this is, but maybe 15 years or something. He's looked more kind of like the, you know, handsome boy model type, you know, like
like he could easily just jump into NSYNC if he wanted to.
Yeah, and,
No
well,
offense,
I think he's
don't
like a super healthy guy too. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
you can-
Oh, and then I remember you commented on Peanuts bass, the lights.
Yeah, his fret markers were lighting up red, which looked really cool, especially during his bass solo. I kind of was like, oh no, a bass solo, you know. But he kicked into it, and it was actually really interesting. And he kicked into this envelope filter, which gave it like a wah sound. you know? And it felt a little bit like a Tool type vibe. A lot of that show kind of had Tool vibes. I think it was the background screens and all that stuff. And then when he kicked into the Star Wars theme,
That
I
was
thought that was
cool.
pretty cool. And he kept it pretty succinct. He didn't like go on forever. you
Right.
know?
Well,
And then there was a drum solo too.
yeah, I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that was.
I dug it.
That's something that they've incorporated. They've been doing that for a while. I know for a while they did it, and then they kind of took it out, and then I think enough people just liked it where they just incorporated it as part of their show.
Well, plus it's Chad Sexton.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's where I was going to admit that I was a total fraud. Like, I was in there watching half the show, not knowing it was him.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, you got to, you know, understand that I haven't seen the band visually for many years, so they look a little different. But I was just like, oh, that's him.
You could say that, but I think it's better to go with you're a fraud.
We'll start with that. I'm definitely a
kidding.
poser. Definitely a poser. I was going to mention the drum circle thing they did, and they were throwing their sticks at each other.
Yeah.
And what I noticed that you said was kind of rare is they all kept catching the sticks.
Yeah.
Nobody seemed to have dropped any of them.
Yeah, it was
very
funny because you
impressive.
could see after they'd done it once or twice, them smiling,
Yeah.
like, yeah, we
We
nailed
did
it.
it.
Because
Pulled
I've
it
seen
off.
them before at shows where, I mean, it's a given you're going to drop one, and they just keep extra ones there, and they just pull them out and keep going. And like,
when he went into that electronic pad, and it
yeah,
sounded
that
really
was
cool.
that was new. I'd never seen that.
Yeah, that was
before.
cool. I like too because the visuals. I was going to talk about the lights too. The visuals were very Tool-like. You know, they had
Yeah.
fractals and cool stuff going on, so it really matched that whole sound. One thing I love the lights. It was kind of a minimal setup, but it was very effective. One thing I didn't like though was they would turn on the super bright white hits.
Yeah, they did do that.
And it was so blinding. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I don't even have, you know, what's that called when you start convulsing?
Oh, epilepsy.
I don't have epilepsy, but I felt like it was coming on.
Yeah,
you know, 'cause
right.
it was like so intense that.
Yeah, that
I don't
was
know.
weird.
They want to like tame that down a little bit. I can't
Yeah.
imagine being right up front and seeing that. You know, Tim Mahoney was killing it. Like,
Yeah.
I kept going, who's that John Frusciante looking dude? You know, because he was
Yeah.
kind of far away from me, but it was like he had the same demeanor,
Yeah.
the same hair and everything. And he looked down and played the same way, but he feels. I mean, obviously he's been doing it for a long time, but it's just perfect for that band.
Yeah. So Creatures, I think that's one that goes kind of up and down. That was like right before the encore, and it's a really cool song. It gets everybody bouncing and like everybody into it, and like just sets them up perfect to walk off stage and be like, "Oh, see you next time," before they come out for the encore.
Yep.
Which of course was
Down. And I was like, yes. I felt like a total poser.
Yeah.
It's like people going, Metallica, Enter Sandman, yes. But then when they kicked into it, I was just so excited about the heaviest part of that song. Because, you know, I'm a metalhead. So when it kicks into It's actually kind of tricky to do on the drums, like hitting the china. That such a cool part. And they do that, I think, twice in the song, and both times I got chills.
Yeah, and the best performance of that, like on TV, is watch the David Letterman performance of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's like, I think it was like their second ever like TV performance. I think the night before they'd played on Conan, that was like their debut, and they did Down, and then they did it again on David Letterman.
Full of piss and vinegar back then.
And like, but it's like essay. It's so cool in that part. He's bound like this, and then like right on beat, he like stops, comes up, and he like takes 2 steps, and he's like,
nice.
He just times it perfectly, and you're like, oh man, that is so cool.
So after Down, they came out, and I think they did a bow or something, so we knew it was the official end of the show.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. They come out and they all get together and do the whole bow, and they throw shit to fans, and
Yep, we're too far to catch anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, Chad, give me a drumstick. I've seen drummers toss drumsticks from across the stage. I'm like, that's not a good idea, probably. It's like a broken baseball bat flying across.
Right.
But then I guess, you don't really go gambling much, and we were at a casino, and I thought, when in Rome, let's just do it up.
Yep.
So we split off, which was a huge mistake. But, we both have our phones.
And Mike says, hey, yeah, you go do your own thing for a while, do mine, and I don't know, maybe in a half an hour or something, shoot me a text or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Real chill,
Yeah, so I go off and I'm doing my thing.
Yep, I'm doing my thing. And I'd like to jump from machine to machine. I don't know how you do it, but I had this like Korean superstition where I could feel this one likes me or whatever. By the way, at the Megadeth show, that paid off. I'll talk about it later. Right. But I sit down at a machine, I think I have a drink in one hand or whatever, and I just kept sitting on my phone. I'm like, oh, it's uncomfortable. So I just took it out and set it on the thing and played a little while. Got up, went to the next machine, did the same thing, probably 7, 8 times. And then all of a sudden I walk to this machine and I go to set my phone down and I reach back and there's nothing in my pocket. And I'm like, my phone's gone, And so I went right back to the machine I was just at. It wasn't there. I thought I could have lost this at any of the machines. And I have no idea because Mystic Lake is gigantic. So I was just like kind of in this weird panic, like in movies where someone loses their child and they're spinning around and everyone's walking by and it seemed like everyone had a phone at that very moment.
Yeah.
And I thought, not only did I lose my phone at a casino, I don't have any way to get a hold of you, and it's already been like 45 minutes or something. Right,
and so I'd text, after a while, I even waited a little bit longer because I thought, a half hour, we need longer than that.
Yeah.
But so after like 45 minutes or something, I texted you and didn't get a response, and I'm like, he's just probably having fun or whatever. So I start walking around, just to kill time, and then it morphed into trying to find you, and I'm, consciously trying to like, where the hell is Mike, And I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it had been a while, and I was like, man, I just can't believe I haven't seen Mike. And it was so funny because I was walking, and all of a sudden, as if it was the most casual thing in the world, I just see you, and you're like, hey, like nothing's wrong. And I'm like, oh, hey, man.
I was acting because I was in a panic.
You're like, did you text me? And I said, yeah. You're like, I didn't get it. And I was like, oh, and you're like, I lost my phone.
Well, before I found you, I had gone through a lot of agony because I went up to the security part, the security guy who looked like George Lucas.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
he looked like George Lucas. That was funny.
And then I go, is there any way you could just page my friend? Say, hey, Dylan to the security desk. That would have saved me a lot of headache. Right. He's like, no, we can't page people anymore.
Wow.
So I'm like, so should I just walk around till I find him? And he's like, you do whatever you got to do. I'm just like, okay. And then I finally find you.
So then we walked around again for
both of us looking at every machine.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like you start to think things look. Oh, is that a phone? Is that
Yep.
And you're like, I wonder if that really is that guy's phone. You're like, is that somebody still? I mean, you just, I felt bad because if I lost my phone, I'd be freaking out just because, like everybody, you've got so much stuff on there.
All the pictures of the show because I was going to do this review. And I'm going to be putting videos of that stuff in there.
I mean, we all have more than we should on our phones.
All my naked pictures, definitely.
As we were walking around, though, I remember telling you that I was like, hey, I think I saw one of the guys from Blame My Youth.
Yeah, and I just thought, it was probably just some, trucker-looking dude. I don't think it was really him.
And then we're walking along. It was almost kind of like an out of this, or like kind of a dead area of the casino.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, hey, Mike, there they are. And it was like the whole band. Blame My Youth is standing there.
Yep.
Which I'm sure Mike will now show the photo that I got of him with the dudes from Blame My Youth.
Which, by the way, would have never happened, I don't think, if I wouldn't have lost my phone.
Yeah.
So we go up to him, and I was a little bit scared in a way because, first of all, I'm more worried about my phone at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, these guys kind of look like scary WWE guys. I don't know why I had it in my head that they were going to beat me up or something. But they were so friendly, and they're just like, hey, cool. And I was like, I couldn't stop looking at you guys' guitars because he had like a Gibson V that was like a wood color. I think the other guy had like a black Les Paul.
Yeah. Yep.
And he's like, oh, and I told him, I have
They're
a
like,
channel.
oh, do you play? And you're like,
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm actually going to do a review of you guys, and now I'm not going to be able to say anything bad because you guys are cool as hell. And he laughed about that, but
It was funny because even seeing, they were like, well, what's it called? And you said Art of Guitar, and like one of them, like I could tell he knew it. He's like, that sounds familiar.
yeah,
And I'm trying to like
talk
brag you up a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, he's got like, I said 1 million subscribers,
Thank you.
even though
You
you're
can
getting
round
close
it
to
up.
that. But I remember like the drummer, like he's like, really, kind of like as if like, oh, you guys. Not that he was actually thinking this, but you guys are worth our attention.
yeah,
To
yeah.
like,
He's not just some kid in his basement with
right. So it was kind of funny. And then the lead singer was funny because when you said that about losing your phone, he said, yeah, I lose my phone in a casino. He's like, yeah, I have. He said that. He's like, I lost my phone. Like
many times. Actually, tonight I'm looking for my phone right now.
Yeah, but so they were super cool, and so we got that picture, and then we moved on, and so we drive home. Mike's driving.
40 minutes to get back.
Yeah, that's for those of you who aren't from here. Mystic Lake Casinos in Prior Lake, which is on the opposite end of the Twin Cities, the far southern end. It was raining too.
That's
So
right.
not,
yeah.
the roads aren't that great, and we get back here, and it's funny because you had all these thoughts dawning on you at the time because you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to call these guys. I don't have a phone.
I don't have a landline.
And you're like, all these things, yeah. And you're like, and then you said, do you mind, would you give him a call when we get back to the studio? And I'm like,
because he gave me George Lucas gave me a little card with the number on it. Yeah.
And so I called him, and at first it went to I think the security office, and that guy didn't know what the hell was going on. So, but then we got transferred to the George Lucas guy, and I handed the phone to you. And he's like, yeah, we have some. And he'd said they'd found some phones.
The guy on the phone's like, well, can you tell me the passcode? And I just I was frozen. I'm like,
Normally
what do I
you'd
do?
never do that, but you're
Yeah, because I don't know the guy. And I didn't think he was going to do anything, but you
Right.
never know once you put your passcode out there. So I did.
when you have it on speaker, and we're both sitting there listening with bated breath.
Yeah, and he goes,
as he tries
that's it, or whatever he
Yeah.
said. I drove right back. I
Yeah.
drove another 40 minutes. I listened to some creepy pasta, which you turned
Yeah.
me on to, and it really passed the time.
But yeah, so it was so nice to at least from my perspective, because that's when my night ended. Essentially, is when we called them. It was just like a nice bow on the night to hear that, yes, you got it, because
Yep.
I didn't want. It's like leaving knowing that you're still stressing over that would have bugged the shit out of me.
It's like open-ended, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like so nice, like a perfect end to the night. Like, wow, it was a crazy night, but
Yep. When
Awesome.
I texted you, hey, I'm texting you from my
Yeah.
phone. It's all good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was awesome, and hopefully I'd like to do this again sometime. And
Well, when are you starting your own channel?
yeah, that's the other thing. Seeing you have that written out, I've got my intro written out and everything.
Nice.
And it was a sneak preview. I want to do a channel, because Mike has encouraged me. I'm very much a music geek, obviously, and one of my favorite things is talking music, like I'm just doing here with Mike. But like music is always, I identify with certain times in my life and stuff, and I know other people do too. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a channel where we kind of talk about that, about specific songs, in the hope of introducing people to songs that they may not have heard, but then also hearing other people's, thoughts or what songs meant to them.
Right.
It may mean something to me, but it'd be totally different to somebody else. It'd be cool to kind of hear that stuff. So
Especially when you click with someone, like if I say, do you remember Matthew Sweet? And you're like, oh yeah, and then you have all these songs that you can
100%
tie.
fun,
100%
yeah.
fun, yeah. Awesome. Well, if you start your channel, we'll promote it.
Yep,
on-
and all you people watching this, you'll need to go there. But
Yeah.
Mike's the man. You guys, I know he's the one you keep going to, and I do too. I'm a subscriber, and
That's awesome, man. I will be the gateway drug to your channel.
There you go.
So we'll just pass people right on.
Cool.
So, all right, everyone. Thanks for watching. See you later.
Cool.